Hello, Soul Crew. It's so great to see you. Today, I have a very powerful and special message. Remember that these transmissions are not meant for everyone every time. They are timeless, so maybe they don't resonate with you right now. They may in the future, they may never. So always remember that if it resonates, take what's yours. Otherwise, you can let it slide so that it can reach the people that it's meant for. Today I have a very particular message for the anxious ones, for the restless, and it begins with a very heartfelt space of compassion for the overthinkers. If this message resonates with you, you may probably fall into certain tendencies for overthinking. And as a great tool as the mind is, that is what it is. It's a tool. It's not a navigation tool, it's a reference tool that it gives us resources to make educated decisions. Nevertheless, it can sometimes overtake responsibilities that are not meant to be resolved with the mind. I share my compassion with you because if you consider you're an overthinker, you probably had to grow up at a very young age. You probably had to resolve a lot of conflict or a lot of unsettling experiences at a time where you might have not been ready to. You had to metabolize a lot more at a very young age. You had to grow up and you had to figure things out on your own and become very resourceful. And then the mind takes over as a tool for survival, for like, I have to be one step ahead, and what if I don't know what's gonna happen, and what if I'm not ahead of other people that could do something. And it can develop like very controlling tendencies. And again, on one end, it's a tool and it works. But if we use it for everything, it becomes the opposite of productive or a tool. It becomes an obstacle, and it can be very paralyzing because unless we overanalyze or we overthink everything, we hold ourselves back from just taking action or going back into a state of play or regulating ourselves or even tapping into our emotions. So what I want to do today is just share that validation that the mind is a great tool for what it's good for, but it's very important to discern when is the mind good for and when is it okay to use other resources and other tools. So the cue here is just recognizing the journey that overthinkers have had, and that having that compassion and comprehending that you're an overthinker for a reason. And instead of being hard on yourself or overthinking it more, it's just coming to terms with being like, okay, there are these tendencies. It's okay. I accept, I feel through, and then we begin to give the mind a break so that the mind can take a step back and we can begin to tap into our feelings, which is also something that our mind has been protecting us from. Because when there were circumstances that were trespassing us and were hurting us outside of our control, it's very hard to be emotionally regulated, to be balanced, to feel safe. So what the mind creates is this mental paradigm, this rational paradigm where it tries to soothe us in order to protect us from situations that we're unable to change, in order to protect us from emotions that are very hurtful. And at some point when we grow up and we become adults, we take responsibility for the circumstances that we're in. We become accountable for how we might have played or not a part in what happened to us. But at some point we have to put a stop to the victim if we want to, right? That's what soul strength is for, is to graduate from the role of the victim, recognizing if there was trespassing, if there was abuse, feeling through those emotions, yet coming to recognize the power that we also have to change our circumstances and to level up and to do better for ourselves. And for that, we recognize that the mind has had a role. We allow the mind to take a step back. We come back into our senses, feeling our nervous system, feeling through our sensorial experience, right? Dimensioning yourself in a room, breathing thoroughly and deeply all the way into the bottom of your lungs, feeling your skin, perceiving any aromas or scents in the environment, feeling your mouth, if there's any taste, right? It's like tapping with each one of your senses so that you can come back into your sensorial field, so you can begin to regulate yourself. And if the mind pops in, you say, thank you very much. There's nothing to overthink here. There's nothing to solve. There's nothing to fix. I'm just checking in with myself. As you begin to do that, you begin to take a load off the mind, and we begin to let go of all of this excess of responsibility that we've put on the mind to try to fix things that, like I said, were outside of our control or that already happened. And there's no point of overthinking them right now because there's nothing we can do to change the past. And the only thing that we can do is regulate ourselves in the present. And that's going to allow us to be more prepared moving forwards if there is a need to think through or solve a certain situation. But unless we balance back and we retreat into ourselves to regulate, we're always going to be running from that space of trauma. So there's a few concepts here, but usually an overthinking mind comes from a dysregulated nervous system, a dysregulated emotional system. It means that we're absent within our emotions, within our sensations. So the more we begin to tap into that, initially, I'm not good at sugarcoating. It may be very uncomfortable. It may be very intense, but I can tell you that it's safe. It's safe to feel through so that you can reclaim your power back, so that you can bring yourself back from those spaces of trauma, so that you can begin to honor yourself and become accountable. And I will be unpacking a lot more on future videos on how to regulate your nervous system. If this is something that interests you, please feel free to start a conversation and let me know, let us know what is relevant for you, what are you interested in, and we can dive deeper into that. Coming back to the main point, having compassion for the overthinker, understanding why they are the way they are may give them some sense of relief, being like, okay, this is why that happened, and now I can take charge of myself. I can retreat into my inner world. I can balance myself, and you can begin to initiate a new rebirth because you are like this beautiful life cycle where you're constantly regenerating, you're constantly rejuvenating yourself, and giving yourself the opportunity to initiate a new rebirth is up to you. It's understanding that yes, there was an overload, that yes, there was a lot that we were trying to fix through the rational world, and the emotions are not rational. The nervous system is not rational. So these are systems that we have to tap from a different level of consciousness. It's a sensorial experience. It takes self-awareness. And for that, we just have to recognize that we are where we are, that we feel the way we feel, that we thought the way we thought, that maybe we're even hurting, even heartbroken, right? So just like going into that heartbreak to recognize that we're hurting so much in order to repair can be very painful. So it's easier to just go back into the mind, keep tapping on that machine and processing a bunch of information that is just not going to change the way we feel. It's going to, like I said, give us a temporary sense of relief, making us feel that we understood something or that we feel different, but the emotions are still going to be there. So it's very important to go to the deep root spaces within yourself. They're usually hidden behind the fear, behind the anxieties. And it's just important to approach this with compassion and curiosity instead of judgment, like who did this or why did this happen or why did I do this? All of this questioning is more like just approaching it with curiosity. How do I feel? What is happening in there? And a way to retrieve yourself and heal is, what do I need right now in order to feel safe? Always go back to referring, how can you make yourself feel safe? Starting within your inner world, what can you do for yourself? And once you begin to set up a pattern of making yourself feel safe, you'll be way more capable of asking others for what you need. Because most of the times we just know we're uncomfortable, but we don't know how to ask for what we need. We don't even know what we need in the first place. So I do recommend that you go within and you start tracing this for yourself. You start training and teaching yourself how to feel safe. What are your needs? And then, like I said, the more you practice, the easier it'll be for you to vocalize and ask others. So in a nutshell, this is a validation message to recognize that there's been a lot of work in the mind. Balance is around the corner. Like, I want you to know that nothing that you went through will go unnoticed. There's a lot of recognition. There's even like a sense of celebration, whether it shows outside of yourself, but just within that sense of satisfaction of like, checkpoint. I can let go of everything right now, reset, retreat into my inner self, into my inner world, and begin an initiation for a rebirth. That's the celebration that is around the corner as we let go of all the weight and all the work, and you begin to recognize yourself for everything you've been through. And I want to commend you for being here, for being who you are. There's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of coincidences. This is a synchronicity. You and I meeting in this time and space is a synchronicity. And I couldn't be more privileged to be sharing this time and space with you. So I do want to hold that space of compassion so that you can feel, like I said, there's like this heartbreak, there's this deep yearning feeling. And again, it might have started early in your childhood. It may be a more recent event, even something that is currently going on. The point is just acknowledging that this can happen at any point in our lives. It can have, like I said, it can be recent, or it can be like lifelong, even like generational. So just kind of going into that space and recognizing whenever you're overthinking, I invite you to dive deeper into your emotions, to recognize that your mind was trying to protect you from your emotions, but the only way to really resolve and regulate yourself is by feeling through the energies in motion. Once you feel through, once you're able to bring that temperance, once you're able to neutralize and regulate, you'll be able to even think at a higher level, right? Because what we want to bring here is an update. The way that you update is by harnessing all of the emotions that are lingering. Rationalizing it doesn't provide an update. Rationalizing is great for problem solving, but your emotions are not something to be solved, and they're not a problem either. They're just information. Your feelings and your sensations are information. They don't need to be, like I said, resolved. They just need to be felt through in order to be processed, and then you can begin to level up. And then as you raise your consciousness and your awareness, your capacity of thinking, even your rational skills and abilities are going to level up as well. But we don't level up with the same tools that we're using. We have to let go of that which is holding us back, which is most of the times the overthinking and thinking that once you have the right answer, then everything is going to be resolved, when in actuality is the more present that you are with yourself, the stronger and the more confident you become, because you know that you can regulate yourself throughout adversity. That's when you begin to level up. So this was a message for the anxious or the more restless ones out there. This is a timeless transmission, so feel free to always come back whenever you need a bit of a boost to understand that. And this is something that is like sometimes tough to hear, but it really puts us in perspective. We're not the first nor the last ones to go through this. And once we understand that we're not alone and that people have gone through this and they've made it out, gives us a sense of inspiration, being like, okay, we have as humans the capacity to go through whatever we're going through and overcome that adversity, level up and upgrade. And that's what we're here for. Recruiting the crew, the soul crew, sharing insights, holding space, holding each other as we walk through this game of game on earth, the game of life, I say. And sometimes it has its challenges, yes, but also great upgrades and great opportunities to make the most out of our purpose and towards the evolution of our soul. Thank you so much for your time and your patience. It's always lovely to see you and meet you in this time and spaces, and we'll see you next time.